It started with a message I was never supposed to see. Not a text on her phone, not a lipstick mark on a collar or some movie scene cliché. It was a damn message on the fridge. A stupid magnet letter board she bought from some influencer store, the kind where you leave quotes or reminders. We used it for meal plans or notes like trash day or don't forget your mom's birthday. That morning it said, "You make me forget I'm married." I read it twice, 3 times. She claimed it was a quote she saw online and liked the sound of. Said it was meant to be ironic, playful. But her voice trembled just slightly on the word married. Not enough for a stranger to catch it, but I did. And suddenly my entire morning rotted from the inside out. I didn't confront her right then. I didn't ask questions. I just stared at the letters while she sipped her coffee and scrolled through her phone like nothing had happened. She laughed at something on Instagram, like her hands weren't shaking when she picked up the mug. I told her I had a meeting and left early. I didn't go to work. I sat in my car down the street and just watched. 3 hours later, a white SUV pulled into the driveway. I'd never seen it before. She walked out in that green sweater she only wore when she really wanted to impress someone. The one with the neckline that made men forget their wives. She walked right up to the car, leaned into the passenger side window, and stayed there for about 10 minutes. Too long for a delivery. Too long for directions. When she finally went back inside, she didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just shut the door behind her like nothing had happened. That night, she made homemade pasta and lit candles. Music played. She even poured me wine. I watched her twirl linguine around her fork while she told me about her boring day. I listened as she asked about my meeting and pretended to care when I fed her the same lie she fed me. Then she said it. The sentence that shifted my world just a little. "I miss how things used to be between us." Not, "I miss you." Not, "I'm sorry for being distant." No, it was phrased like an actress reading lines from a script she wasn't even invested in. So I said nothing. I just nodded and let her keep pretending. Because that was the moment I decided to dig. And I did. What I found broke me. But it also woke me up. She wasn't just pulling away. She was already gone. And I was about to follow the trail she didn't know she left behind. I started with the white SUV. I didn't recognize the make or plate, but I remembered the dealership frame around the license. I drove there the next day, told the guy behind the counter I was looking to surprise my brother with the same car. Played it cool. Flashed a smile, made a joke. He bit. Looked up the purchase history on his screen. Asked for a few details. I fed him just enough, and after some small talk, he mentioned the name of the guy who bought the SUV a few months back. Derek. Derek Klein. That name meant nothing to me until I checked her Instagram. Deep down, I didn't expect to find anything. She was too careful. Her account was a museum of sanitized couple photos and food shots. Nothing suspicious. But I forgot about tagged photos. She couldn't control those. I found one from last month, her at some wine tasting pop-up. She hadn't mentioned going. She claimed she was at her sister's that weekend. The background was blurry, but there he was, standing next to her. Not touching, not obvious, but close. Too close for two people who supposedly just met by accident. So I dug deeper. She had a second Pinterest account, hidden under her maiden name. Not hard to find. Once I searched for Klein, in combination with hers. Boards titled Dream Escapes, Midnight Drives, Words That Burn. Quotes about forbidden love. He wasn't mine, but I lost him like he was. That kind of thing. I didn't eat that night. Couldn't. I just sat in the dark, lit by the glow of my laptop screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then came the accident. She slipped. We were watching a movie, some throwaway Netflix thing, and she got a text. She jumped when the phone buzzed. I glanced casually. Just one word lit up on the screen before she flipped it over. Still. Still. That was it. That one word told me everything. She stood up and said she needed to make a quick call. Left the room. I followed her voice to the hallway and stood just around the corner. "I told you I don't know yet," she whispered. I don't know, being nice again. Like he knows something. Just, don't text me right now. I froze. I didn't barge in. Didn't scream. Didn't even breathe. I waited until she went to bed and pretended to fall asleep beside her. Hours passed. My heart pounded in slow, steady betrayal. I stared at the ceiling and listened to her breathe, wondering how many lies lived in that rhythm. And then I made the decision. I was going to trap her in her own story. No shouting, no violence, just truth. Her own words, her own moves. I was going to let her fall into the hole she dug herself. And when she did, I wouldn't catch her point 2 days later. I started talking about a promotion that didn't exist. It was my bait. At dinner, I casually mentioned that my boss was considering me for a position overseas. I threw in all the bells and whistles: higher pay, a villa provided by the company, even a stipend for a spouse who relocated. I watched her reaction closely. She smiled too fast, nodded too eagerly, asked no real questions. That's when I knew. A woman who used to dissect every tiny detail of my day didn't even ask what country we'd be moving to. She wasn't thinking about a future with me. She was calculating her exit. I gave it a week. Let the story breathe. Fed her bits and pieces: we might have to start packing soon, or I told my boss you'd be thrilled. Every time she smiled thinner. Her touches got colder. Her patience wore thinner. And then, just like clockwork, she cracked. That Sunday morning, while folding laundry, she said it so casually it felt rehearsed. "Have you thought about going alone at first? Just until you're settled?" I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she didn't even flinch saying it. No tears, no internal struggle. Just a quiet suggestion to leave me behind. I asked her why. Not accusingly. Just curious. She froze for half a beat. Then came the performance. "I just think it might be better for both of us. Space is good, right? We've been kind of tense lately. You even said it yourself." I hadn't. But she needed a reason, so she made one up. That was my green light. That night, while she was in the shower, I unlocked her laptop. She never changed the password. It was still the name of our old dog. There were messages. Dozens of them. Emails. Drafts. Some never sent, just half-written outpourings saved in her drafts folder. Like she was writing him love letters and hiding them where only silence would find them. But one was sent. A full letter to him. "I think I'm almost there. He's distracted. Keeps talking about some job overseas. He has no idea. I'm just waiting for the right moment." That line sat in my chest like a stone. The next morning, I packed a small bag and said I needed to fly out for an early meeting. Told her I'd be back in 3 days. She didn't even walk me to the door. Just waved from the couch and said, "Good luck, babe." I drove around the city for hours. I didn't have anywhere to go. I just needed to be gone. I needed to know what she'd do when she thought I wasn't watching. So I parked 3 blocks away. And I waited. It took 2 hours. The white SUV pulled into the driveway like it had always belonged there. But what I didn't expect. He went inside this time. She didn't even hesitate. She let him in. Laughed in the doorway. And when it closed behind them, I didn't imagine what was happening inside. I didn't need to. I just started recording. Because if she wanted to lie, she'd have to lie to my face with evidence in my hands. I sat there, in my car, 3 blocks down with the engine off and my fists clenched so tightly the steering wheel leather creaked under my grip. I watched our house, become a stage. And she didn't know I was the audience. For 2 hours, I recorded everything. The comings and goings. The silhouette of them through the living room blinds. Her throwing her head back laughing. Him walking like he belonged there. Like I'd already been erased. I wasn't looking for something explicit. I didn't need that. Her betrayal wasn't in the physical. It was in how comfortable she was being someone else when she thought I was gone. Around 9 p.m. I called my friend Tyler. He's a quiet guy. No drama, no lectures. I needed someone like that. "Can I crash for a few nights?" I asked. He didn't even ask why. I told him everything. Every ugly detail. The letter on the fridge. The second Pinterest. The whisper in the hallway. The SUV. The emails. The scene tonight. And then I told him my plan. He tried to talk me out of it. Said it was cruel. Said I should just confront her and be done with it. But it wasn't about cruelty. It was about letting her write her own ending, with me still on the last page, holding the pen. The next morning, I came back home as if nothing happened. I parked, walked in with a coffee in hand, wearing the same clothes I left in. She looked surprised, just for a flicker. Said she thought I'd be gone longer. I told her the meeting was postponed. That my boss had cold feet about sending me overseas. She smiled too quickly. Said something about how everything happens for a reason. That night I made us dinner. Played her game. We ate spaghetti and watched a movie. She curled up next to me like we were still something real. She even kissed my cheek. And I smiled through it all. But my heart? My heart was fire and ice at the same time. The next 3 days I set the stage. I started being overly nice. Woke her up with breakfast. Left her notes. Rubbed her shoulders while she worked late on the couch. I wanted her relaxed, cocky, careless. And she was. She even stopped locking her phone again. That was her fatal mistake. I waited until she was asleep on a Sunday night. Her phone buzzed once at 12:47 a.m. I watched her roll over and silence it, still half asleep. Then I waited. At 3 a.m. I picked up her phone and walked outside. Her password hadn't changed. I opened her texts. I didn't need to go far. The last message from Derek read, "It's almost time. I can feel it." "When are you telling him?" She had replied, "Soon. He's being so sweet lately it's almost sad." Almost sad. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she woke up to coffee on the nightstand and me smiling like the perfect husband. Because tomorrow I was going to burn the mask off her face. And I wasn't going to say a word. She had no idea what I was about to do. The next day, I told her I planned a little dinner for us. "Just us two," I said. "Like old times." Her eyes narrowed slightly, suspicious. But she masked it with a smile and that same rehearsed warmth she'd been faking for weeks. "You're being so sweet lately," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "It's like I got the old you back." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the old me died the moment I saw her with him. This version was calculating every move like a chess player 10 steps ahead. I made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner. The one she used to tell everyone was our place. I even asked for the same table, the one by the window with the candles and the city view. She wore the black dress. The one that used to be for us, but now it was just costume jewelry on a lie. She complimented the wine. Said the steak was perfect. Told me I looked good tonight. And every time she spoke, I could feel the distance between us, me sitting across from a stranger who once knew how to love me, now nothing more than a shape-shifting in my memories. When dessert came, I handed her a small envelope. No words. Just slid it across the table. She blinked. Then smiled like she expected jewelry or tickets to Paris. Something romantic. Something to reward her for a betrayal she believed I hadn't noticed. She opened it. Inside, 2 printed screenshots. One was her email to him, the one with "he has no idea." The other, the text from last night, "Soon. He's being so sweet lately it's almost sad." She froze. Her smile cracked, just for a second. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. "What is this?" she said, still clinging to her character. "Is this a prank?" I didn't answer. She looked up at me and the mask finally dropped. Her voice dropped too low, hard. "So what now? You want to play victim? Make me beg? What is this? Some power trip?" Still, I said nothing. Just looked at her. The woman I thought I'd build a life with, now unraveling like thread in front of me. She leaned forward, hissing. "You were boring. You are boring. Always chasing stability like it's a personality trait. And yeah, I found something else. Someone else. Because at least he doesn't stare through me like I'm wallpaper." Her words hit like shards. But I didn't flinch. Then she smiled again. Different this time. Cruel. "What, you gonna cry? You gonna storm out? What exactly is this little performance?" I pulled out my phone, tapped it, and set it on the table between us. The screen lit up. A paused video of her and Derek. Through the blinds of our living room, laughing on our couch, a perfect little frame of betrayal. Her face went blank. "I don't need to scream," I said finally. "I don't need to beg or argue. I just wanted you to see exactly how small you've become. How loud your lies echo when no one's clapping anymore." She stared at the screen, then at me. And in that silence, something broke. Not in her. In me. Whatever love I still had. Gone. Drowned in her silence. She stood up. Snatched her purse. "You're a bastard," she whispered. "You set me up." "No," I said, still calm. You wrote the play. I just let you finish it. She stormed out, and I sat there, alone. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel lonely. I didn't go home that night. Not because I was afraid of her. Not because I needed space. Because the moment she walked out of that restaurant, she stopped being my problem. I drove to Tyler's again. He didn't ask questions this time. Just handed me a beer and sat on the balcony with me in silence. He knew. Sometimes you don't need to talk through a war. You just sit with the soldier when he comes back. She called around midnight. Twice. Left a voicemail on the third try. I don't know what you want from me, she said, voice trembling. Not from guilt, but from panic. You think you're better than me because you caught me first? Because you made some dramatic little scene? You're pathetic. You set a trap like a coward. I didn't reply. The next morning, she sent a text. Let's talk. But there was nothing left to talk about. Instead, I called a locksmith. By noon, her key didn't work anymore. By 2 p.m., I was at a lawyer's office. She didn't know it yet, but her little vacation from the truth had expired. I got home around 3. Her car was in the driveway. She was sitting on the front step like someone who still thought the show was hers to direct. She stood up when she saw me, tried to speak. But the deadbolt told her everything she needed to know. You're locking me out? She asked, laughing like it was absurd. You're seriously doing this? I walked past her. Calm. Not a word. Unbothered. Are you really going to throw everything away over a few texts? She snapped. I turned back. No, I said. You threw it away. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She started with the usual script. Said I'd changed. Said I made her feel invisible. That I was distant, unavailable, cold. Every line carefully rehearsed. But none of it stuck anymore. You cheated, I said simply. Not once. Not by accident. You built a whole side life while I was still showing up every day. You're not sorry. You're just caught. She stopped talking. And then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not embarrassed. Mocking. You really think you're some tragic hero in all this? You think anyone's gonna feel bad for you? You're nothing without me. No edge. No bite. You'll be forgotten in 5 minutes. I smiled. That's what she didn't understand. This wasn't about forgetting. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about winning. It was about watching her try every trick, every manipulation, every card she had, only to realize none of them worked on me anymore. She stormed off. Didn't even look back. She didn't know about the lawyer. Not yet. She didn't know about the copies of the messages, the photos, the timeline I had built, piece by piece, day by day. She thought I was reacting. She didn't realize I'd been preparing. She wanted chaos? I was going to give her precision. The silence that followed was louder than any fight we'd ever had. 3 days. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. She was waiting for me to crack, for me to show up at her feet, begging for closure or forgiveness or one last fight to prove she still mattered. But I gave her nothing. She wasn't used to that. She was used to controlling the room just by walking in. On the 4th day, I got a call from a mutual friend, Claire. The kind of person who pretends she doesn't take sides but somehow always ends up on the winning one. You should talk to her, Claire said. She's really upset. She's saying you blindsided her. Said you embarrassed her in public. That you humiliated her. I didn't laugh. I wanted to, but I didn't. Instead, I asked her a question. Did she mention why? Claire was quiet. Exactly. By Friday, the real game started. I came home to find a note taped to my door in her handwriting. No envelope. Just folded in half like a kid's apology letter. Inside, one sentence. Don't throw everything away over something that wasn't real. Not wasn't important. Not wasn't what you think. Wasn't real. That was her play. Rewriting the timeline. Trying to minimize, to shrink the truth down into something she could stomp out with her heel. I didn't respond. She escalated. The next night, I got a call from her mom. We hadn't spoken in months, not since before all this began. She sounded polite, unsure. She's not doing great, her mother said gently. She told me you locked her out. That you've been cold. That she tried to apologize. I asked if she told her what she did. Another silence. No surprise. She was rewriting history faster than I could expose it. So I made my move. The next morning, I dropped off a sealed manila envelope at her sister's place. No words. Just a flash drive inside with everything. Screenshots. Emails. The restaurant video. The timeline. Every stone she thought I'd leave unturned, documented, timestamped, organized. By noon, I got a text from her. You think you're clever? You think this changes anything? You're pathetic. 10 minutes later, another. You're seriously sending my family evidence? What's wrong with you? You're disgusting. And finally, I never even loved him. That one made me pause. Not because I believed her, but because she was still playing chess when I'd already walked off the board. You don't drop that line unless you've lost control. That night, I slept like a man who had nothing left to lose. I wasn't unraveling. She was. And she had no idea how far I was willing to go to keep my peace intact. 2 days after the envelope drop, the narrative flipped. I started getting texts from people who hadn't messaged me in months, friends of hers, coworkers, people I barely spoke to. Some subtle, some not so subtle. All variations of the same theme. Hey man, just checking in. Heard things got messy. Maybe take the high road, you know? You guys were together a long time. Nobody's perfect. Relationships are complicated. It was laughable. This wasn't about nobody's perfect. This wasn't a missed birthday or a forgotten date night. This was calculated. Repeated. Intimate betrayal by a woman who stared into my eyes while plotting her exit behind my back. But she was smart. She knew how to spin. Knew how to perform just enough distress to make people lean in and lower their guard. Cry at the right time. Say he changed and I felt neglected and it just happened. Always just happened, like feelings are hurricanes and affairs are accidents. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I knew the truth would settle in eventually. The bomb hit on Thursday. I got an email from HR at her job. Apparently, Derek? Yeah, he worked there too. They kept it hidden, but someone had forwarded the emails. Someone anonymous. Not me. Maybe it was someone in her family. Maybe her sister read the flash drive. Maybe Karma has a LinkedIn account. I didn't ask questions. The email said the company was conducting an internal review. Inappropriate relationships between coworkers, especially undisclosed ones, violated company policy. She showed up at my place that night. No call. No warning. Just pounded on the door like she owned the bricks. I opened it. Slowly. Calm. Her eyes were wild, wet, furious, desperate. You got me suspended, she snapped. No, I said, holding her gaze. You did that. I just turned the lights on. She tried to push past me. I didn't move. You think you won? She hissed. You think you're better than me because you kept your hands clean while you destroyed my life? That word again. Destroyed. Like she hadn't walked into the fire and asked for gasoline. I didn't let her inside. She stood there on the porch, pacing, unraveling in real time. This was supposed to be between us, she said. You humiliated me. You made me look like you were what you look like, I cut in. That stunned her. Just for a second. Then the tears came, not soft, not human, but manipulative. Like an actress slipping into the one role she knew always worked before. I was lost, she said. I didn't know what I was doing. I just needed something different. I never meant for this to become real. I asked. She swallowed hard. That was the truth right there, hovering in the air between us. She had never expected the fantasy to rot under real light. She thought she'd float through the affair and land safely on the other side with a clean slate and a new man. But Derek wasn't returning her calls now. And I wasn't opening the door. You need to leave, I said. She stared at me. Not with love. Not with hate. With disbelief. Like for the first time, she realized I was done. Not angry. Not broken. Just finished. She turned. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't slam the door. She just walked away. And this time? I didn't watch her go. After she left that night, something strange happened. Nothing. No anger. No high. No crash. Just stillness. Clean, unflinching silence that wrapped around me like armor. I sat in the kitchen, phone face down, untouched. No music. No TV. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the steady beat of my own pulse. The house, our house, felt different now. Lighter. Like it had exhaled the poison too. I didn't care where she went. I didn't care who she ran to. If Derek took her back, he deserved every lie she'd eventually recycle. And if he didn't, that was his survival story, not mine. But karma moves fast when someone finally stops giving it excuses. The next day, her sister texted me. She'd been silent since the flash drive until now. She told Mom she might move out of state. Says everyone's judging her. I didn't reply. What was there to say? The world wasn't judging her. The mirror finally started telling the truth. But the second message hit harder. She said she doesn't think anyone's ever going to believe she didn't love you. I stared at those words for a long time, because that was the only confession that actually mattered. Not whether she meant the affair, or if she regretted it. Not whether she'd do it again or had done it before. No. What mattered was that deep down she knew she'd destroyed the only person who ever loved her without conditions, and that truth would live in her longer than anything I could say. Later that week, a box showed up on my porch. No note. No name. I knew her handwriting, though. The A in fragile gave her away. Inside, 2 framed photos from our wedding. A card I gave her on our first anniversary. The shirt she always borrowed from my drawer. That damn green sweater. A return to sender. Like she wanted to dump the weight but keep her hands clean. I didn't even take the things out. I just walked them to the fire pit out back and lit a match. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed a burial. Not of her. Of the version of me that thought love was blind loyalty. I watched the flames twist and spit until all that was left was ash. No calls came after that. She vanished from my world like smoke through fingers. No social media posts. No dramatic apologies. No take me back scenes in the rain. She knew the door wasn't just closed. It had been welded shut. And still, there was a scar. Not an open wound. Not anymore. But something permanent. A reminder. Proof that you can be careful, loyal, consistent, and still get shattered by someone who smiles while doing it. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't just break the heart. It rewires trust. It teaches you to hear lies and laughter, to doubt hands that reach for you, to flinch at kindness because you remember the sharpness behind a soft voice. But I was learning, not just to move on, but to move differently. It's been 7 weeks. Long enough for the dust to settle. Long enough for her silence to stop feeling like tension and start feeling like peace. Funny how quiet used to mean something was wrong. Now, it's a luxury. People still ask sometimes. Mutual friends, family, the kind of people who don't really want the truth. They want a digestible version of it. Polite one. What happened between you two? And I always give them the same answer. She walked out of the life she was already halfway gone from. I don't tell them about the fridge message, the emails, the phone calls in the hallway, the fake smile over tacos. I don't tell them how I caught her, cornered her, watched her crack like porcelain under her own lies. Not because I'm hiding it, because it's done. But what people never ask, what they should ask, is what I learned. Because that's the part they need to hear. You learn a lot when the person closest to you lies like it's second nature. When you realize their love had an expiration date and they never told you when it passed. You learn that apologies mean nothing when they come from a place of exposure, not remorse. You learn that betrayal isn't just physical. It's a rot that starts in the way they stop looking at you, in the way they rewrite their own feelings, in the way they call your pain drama and your boundaries cruel. But most of all, you learn how strong silence can be. Not the silence of being ignored. The silence of walking away. She accidentally confessed she cheated on me with one sentence, one slip, one moment she thought wouldn't matter. I think I'm almost there. He's distracted. Keeps talking about some job overseas. He has no idea. I said nothing. And I simply walked away. Not from weakness. From power. Because I didn't need to fight to prove she was wrong. I didn't need to scream or smash things or beg her to stay. She wrote the story herself. I just made sure she had to read it back. So here's my advice: if anyone's reading this because they're in the same storm, don't chase the truth. Stand still and let it crash into you. It always does. Don't argue with someone who's already decided they're the victim in their own story. And don't waste energy trying to make someone see your worth when they've already put a price on betraying it. Walk away, quietly, and watch how loud your absence becomes.